having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Flipping back the calendar to highlight yesteryear's finest while exploring the vast archives in cinema history. This is the Movie Review Rewind podcast on Nashville Movie Dispatch.
Welcome back for another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. It's your boy, the EIC at SoBrosNetwork.com, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. Collectively, we are at SoBros Network on all major social media platforms. And you can subscribe to the Nashville Movie Dispatch at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. Of course, couldn't do it without my co-host. He is the resident film critic of Nashville Movie Dispatch. He is a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association, and he is a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association. Mr. Big Shot himself, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today, my man?
Not too bad. What are we at? June?
June, yeah. So we're talking summer movies.
Yeah, we're in the gross part of the.
Well, it's not gross yet. I think it's getting gross this time of year.
I don't know.
That window of like May where it's still kind of cool, relief enough at night.
Oh, at night, yeah.
And
okay.
then early
right.
June is when like you start to really feel it when you can't go outside without really sweating, and and you don't get that relief at night. I feel like that starts in June.
It's just muggy.
And then it just gets hotter and muggier until August. And then in September, it finally starts to cool off.
Have you ever gone back to listen to some of these and how many start off with the weather?
Well, I mean, you get two old men together.
Yeah.
We
talk about the month, especially when it's really not the month. Then you start guessing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which one did we just do?
We just recorded Draft Day.
Yeah.
We just recorded Draft Day.
So I make up disasters that could happen.
Because it's tornado season in April. Yeah. No,
but,
June, I feel like there are still some relatively pleasant days in June.
Yeah, June's nice.
June's nice. For me, like once we get past the 4th of July, I'm just ready for fall.
But school's out now. That's awful.
That's true. That's true, yeah.
You can't go, for instance, for movies, you can't really go during the day without like some kids being in there.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
That's a bummer.
I don't know if a lot of kids even go to movies besides like, because it's not a cheap date. I'll tell you that.
No, not anymore.
And if you're just looking to pay to sit up in that back row, you just go ahead and park yourself in a Kroger.
I like doing that for like 11 a.m. movies where I can like take my laptop and work. That I'm still technically on the clock. But nobody else is in there. Like when you go see.
You have like your two screens up and everything.
Yeah, just laptop. But it's like you go see Strays at 11 o'clock on a Friday morning. There's nobody in there but you. You can get some work done and that's not the type of movie you have to really pay attention to.
I bet people don't even know what that movie is.
Probably not. It's probably forgotten.
And it's only been 2 years?
Yeah. But I want to talk about another movie that I feel like is a little underrated and a little forgotten from 2020, Palm Springs.
I can't believe it's from 2020.
Yeah, I know.
I legit thought it was only like maybe 2 years ago, maybe.
No, it was one that, an interesting era for the movies, an interesting year.
Which it was always supposed to be on Hulu, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that anything changed. I don't think.
Except for like how we consued movies, like on the other side of the equation.
Yeah. But I don't know if like Palm Springs was supposed to come out and then it got bought by Hulu. I'm pretty sure it was just always supposed to be Hulu. But man, it was one of the best movies of the year.
It was, man. It was. And I don't think enough people really... It's funny because I feel like the people that see it love it.
Yeah.
I just don't know that enough people saw it as it deserved.
I think that's true, yeah. And I have a review of it on SoBrosNetwork.com. But yeah, I would agree with that because there's not like huge names. I mean, Andy Samberg is I think most people because from SNL and people that love Hot Rod or Lonely Island, and then of course the Brooklyn Nine-Nine brought a lot of success. So, but yeah, and it's a very quirky, kind of kooky rom-com.
I picked it for June for a couple of reasons because I do feel like
it's very June.
This is a summer movie.
Yeah, it's
very, very much on the summer vibes.
Yes.
The outside by the pool, like it feels like Andy Samberg is in swim trunks and a Hawaiian shirt for the entirety
most of the time.
of the film.
Yeah,
and sunshine, that sort of stuff. Like it fits the vibes for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a physical copy of it. I would love to get a physical copy of this film.
Do they make one?
I feel like they do. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to talk to our friends down at Danger Zone Video and see if they can.
They might.
They can hook us up. But it's one that if I had a physical copy of, it would be in my. We always joke about it on this show, like my rotation of like seasonal movies.
So,
This one's going in the summer. This one's going in the summer stack with The Sandlot and Midnight in Paris and stuff like that. But also, fitting the vibes, it's relevant this time of year. It feels like something you could pop on a sunny Sunday evening and enjoy. But also, man, it's been 5 years since the COVID year.
Yeah.
When things changed dramatically for the movie industry. And I kind of thought, you mentioned it before, like I don't realize how much time has passed since then because I still think about it and it still feels like it was just a year or two ago. But it was such an interesting time, and specifically for the film industry and how things kind of changed. We've got some podcasts and articles from back then kind of chronicling what it was like to be a part of that. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of take a moment 5 years later to kind of step back and look at that era as well.
I only remember 2 movies when COVID first hit. And it was The Invisible Man, because that came out in February, and I actually still got to see that in theaters.
Yeah,
and then Onward, the Pixar movie, and maybe I do remember The Way Back, the Ben Affleck basketball one.
Yeah,
that was all Marge, and that was short lived.
Yeah, and then The Way Back was a good movie too.
It was, and and then things I remember. One of the Trolls movies was like the first one that was like you could buy it on TV.
Yeah, that's what
for $20. And I mean, that was a big deal. And I mean, the theatrical window will never be the same again because it even got shorter.
Yeah,
because of
that's like last summer when The Fall Guy made a ton of money because it stayed in theaters for like 8 weeks or something.
Yeah,
and everybody was just like, well, damn, who's heard of such a thing? Lo and behold, if you keep movies in theaters, they'll make more money. Yeah. But it was interesting. Like The Invisible Man was that movie for me that I remember being in theaters, and then a couple weeks later, everything shuts down, and you're just like, what do we do? But then my wife and I rented it for $20.
Yeah.
And it's like that was kind of, stuff started dropping straight to streaming services like Onward to Disney Plus. Soul too
ended up becoming one. Yeah,
was another one that went straight to streaming.
Well, so did the red one. I forgot what it's called. The
Turning Red.
Yeah,
Turning Red. Yeah. Scoob was that summer as well.
Oh yeah.
So it really kind of changed things.
Yeah.
And I felt like that. They've got to do what they've got to do. And I do feel like there were movies in 2020, like Palm Springs, that it kind of felt like, man, if there wasn't so much going on in the world at the time, this was like the perfect summer movie to kind of, I don't know, I felt like more people would have seen it, been buzzing about it.
Well, but then you feel like it was prime time because nobody was out.
Well, it dropped in June.
Oh, it was shut. Yeah, everything was shut
and
down.
Everything, it felt like that was when we started kind of going back outside again. Like maybe, I don't know, do you wonder, like people were kind of cooped up at that point?
Well, in February and March, yes. So by the time you get to June, as far as being outside, that's true.
Because it was July when the theaters reopened. with
Tenet.
And I think technically was Unhinged first. I feel
Unhinged
like
was
Unhinged
one of the first ones.
might have been a week before Tenet, but then
Yeah.
So like at the end of that point, it's like, okay, we've seen all the movies we're gonna see. Like we're just ready to go back outside, and now theaters have reopened, so maybe we're gonna go to the movies yet again. I don't know. I just like looking back at it, I kind of just wondered like, was this just like the worst possible time? Was it August?
Unhinged came out on August 21st.
So like, was that just the worst possible time for Palm Springs to drop?
Because everybody was outside.
People were ready to get back
That's
out.
True.
I don't know.
That's true. Real quick, I will never forget. So A Quiet Place Part 2 was coming out, and we got a press screening invite. And it was supposed to be, and I want to say it was like March 12th. And about 3 days before the screening, it was canceled. And I remember everyone being so bummed. And of course, it came out, a year later or so. But yeah, I mean, maybe that is true, because then it's kind of like, what were the options on streaming?
Yeah.
Because since everything is, and now and to keep in mind, it's fairly new that you're buying to rent movies, and either they're brand new and they've never hit theaters, or like you said, it was literally just out 2 weeks ago. So it's possible. I know the thing is, it did get a lot of critical praise, and it got nominated for stuff. So I think people have become more aware of it. But yeah, I still don't think it gets all of the credit it deserves.
Palm Springs is 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Out of how many?
Out of 254 reviews. Yeah. And then 89% on the popcorn meter as well. So, I mean, let's just dig into it then. I think it was one of the best films of the year.
Yep.
I was surprised to go back and look at this film and see how much critical success that Andy Samberg got out of this. Obviously, like we know, 2025, Kristen Milioti is a budding superstar.
Yeah.
Like her performance in The Penguin got her, was it Critics' Choice?
Yeah, she won a Critics' Choice back in February. And I knew she looked familiar, so I caught up. I finished The Penguin in January.
Yeah.
I just watched it all through within about a few days. But yeah, she's really good. But I totally forgot. I knew she looked familiar. I could not, and I think it was you that told me. I'm like, oh yeah. But yeah, but
Andy Samberg, like, got a Golden Globe nomination out of this for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy.
Yeah.
The film was nominated for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and it actually won Best Comedy at the Critics' Choice Awards that year. So, like, looking back at it was kind of like, wow, there was some critical success for this film.
And that's good to have when you come out in June on streaming.
Samberg getting those nominations. J.K. Simmons is good in this film as well.
He
but
is.
to me, I thought the execution was fine. I was surprised to see Samberg get nominated, to be honest. It's not that he's bad, but it's just kind of like, it feels kind of natural. Like you're watching Samberg be Samberg a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he does show a nice layer of depth that some of his other stuff does not show, but I would not have thought like, oh, this is a Best Actor worthy performance. To me, the heart of Palm Springs comes from the questions that it has you asking, because I think it is you mentioned it, it's quirky. It's kind of offbeat. I love the sense of humor in it.
I do too.
But I do think it's a different kind of it's an interesting blend of the sci-fi aspect of being in a time loop, living the same day over and over, and a rom-com. And I think pairing the two together is what makes Palm Springs so great, but it's the questions that the film asks that to me give it its real heart. Like, how do we cope with our trauma? You know, we think about Samberg's character kind of talking about how difficult it was. And it's like, damn, like the real world.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, you think about it, like, are you
Who
so
wants
hurt?
to go back to that?
Are you so hurt that you're willing to live the same exact day over and over. Like, that's a profoundly sad thing to contemplate. Would it ever get to a point where living the same day over and over is comforting? You know, so many people like struggle with anxiety and OCD these days that, like, the thought, if you slow down and think about it, like knowing what's going to happen eliminates a lot of anxiety. And what does that say about our society and where we are? And then obviously, like, would you be willing to do it if you found the one? And if you found somebody that you loved, like, would it be worth it to know you could have that day over and over every day? And then, of course, it plays with the idea of free will, because Miliotti's character doesn't really want to stay in the same day over and over. And there's conflict there because Sandberg thinks it's kind of nice. So it begs the question of, like...
Well, and it's where is she waking up compared to where he's waking up?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean...
And so it's like, how do you cope with this? How do you manage what you're feeling here? And I just thought that the film did such a really good job of exploring those questions that, to me, the performances were more or less like funny. You nailed it. You executed perfectly. But in a more cosmic sense, the way it made me think about what I would do in that situation and what it says about me was far more profound and effective as far as storytelling goes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think that's why it is so clever, but it's also very, to me, it's highly intriguing because of just those questions, and having the kind of humor about it.
Sure.
Is what, I mean, there's a fine line between the ridiculous and the reality of life being too hard, or, I mean, there's a fine line that it walks.
Yeah.
Now, but I will say, and I mean, I think this is the case in so many, especially if you're going to do a genre type film like this, is that their chemistry plays a key part.
Sure.
In believing what they're telling you.
Yeah.
And to me, that's baked into those performances too, because if this, I mean, from the writing and the directing and everything, it could go off the rails. And in a way it does, but it always brings you back, because I think there's a fundamental question about the way we live our life, or how we think we should live our life, or what, and like you said, especially when it comes to coping, because I think one of the best scenes is when Andy Samberg goes to basically confront J.K. Simmons.
As one of the things that I wrote down, he tells him, find your Irvine.
Right, because in a way, it's what you make it.
Yeah.
So if you are going to relive it, we're finding someone who kind of likes it because of the harsh realities of where it, like, it's an escape, like a forever escape. But J.K. Simmons was pissed because he wouldn't be able to watch his grandkids. But then he found that Irvine where it is very much of he's enjoying what he has, because the day is actually, like, he appreciates it more.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you have her, and it's a reminder of a shitty thing she did, and it's a constant thing. So I love kind of the perspectives it brings. Now, but I also like that J.K. Simmons' character is taking it out on him. But then he finally has, it's like everybody has to find, when you say find your Irvine, and then of course he kills them, which is, I mean, it's still kind of funny, even though I mean, it's demented, but sure.
But it's kind of, I don't know. There's a lesson in it, like the mundane, not necessarily like getting accustomed to it, but it is a case where he kind of accepts his fate and he sees the beauty in it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is a sort of lesson that you can apply even if you're not stuck in a time loop.
Yeah.
Living the same day over and over. And I thought that was, I would agree with you. To me, that scene in particular is one of the more powerful and effective ones in the film.
It kind of brings it all together in, hey, it's not that, it's not that bad, but it's easy to not see it. And
Yeah.
I think, and then you start thinking of, gosh, you know, I mean, maybe a day here, you know, maybe you should look at it in a different way, because what if you couldn't do it? What, you know, he thought about his grandkids not growing up, but what if he just never saw his grandkids?
Yeah.
I mean, what if it was a day he didn't, you know, I mean, it could have. And so, so yeah, I mean, I think for something that seems so kind of wacky, it really is quite thoughtful. And I think when it's all said and done, and especially considering you see like Andy Samberg's in it, it goes deeper than you would give it. I mean, than anybody would think. And I think
it's
that's
surprising.
what makes it.
Yeah.
And it's all in 90 minutes.
That, man.
Nails it in 90 minutes.
Yeah. You can't beat that. I do think, because I read one review that kind of discussed this, like the decision to keep it at 90 minutes probably saved it from going a little too far. Because you can feel, as much as I like this movie, you can still feel it teetering towards a point where it's like, we could pretty easily go into excess here.
Yeah, when she starts to kind of do her own research and they kind of make that a little snappy, I feel like that's on purpose, because you've got to get back to them too.
Yeah,
It all centers around them too. But yeah, J.K. Simmons, for everything, I feel like that scene in his backyard is really like, I feel like he probably read that and thought, all right,
yeah,
I'll do it.
Yeah. The word that came to mind for me when I just think about this, like within the context of the rom-com genre, which I don't know, like which, if you would put it, rom-com, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever.
Yeah.
But thinking about it in terms of just as a rom-com on its own, refreshing was the word that came to mind.
Oh, yeah.
In style, in direction, storytelling, performance, everything. What did you think?
That's a fresh take. That is a fresh take on something that, even if you have the sci-fi element to it,
yeah,
it's still, the way it's pulled off is to me quite tricky, because you're not dealing with reality, and it's not, it is a boy meets girl, but it's way, I mean, obviously it's way more than that, but it is, I mean, it's not taking that that conventional path, even if you're still in the time. Like, you know what I mean? It's got, and a lot of it is within the writing too, because the way they're able to make it make sense, especially for her who just discovered what happened. But then, I mean, so much is into kind of how they even react.
Yeah.
But then when they start to it gets a little funnier, because then they start to take it for granted. So they start doing things that they wish they could do, or it would be fun to do. And like, she throws them this party and stuff like, and it's kind of like, yeah, but then there's always these moments of like, we got to get out of this fairy, like this, I wouldn't call it a fairy tale, I guess, but a fantasy land of like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like there is like, it's almost like you give up, but then, what can you do? So, I mean, as a rom-com, it has it's got the but what it does with it is like you said, it's quite rejuvenating when you see something like that could, again, it could go in many directions.
Yeah.
And the way it does is, I mean, it's so satisfying, even at the very end on how it goes.
In terms of the creativity of it.
Yeah.
I have a difficult time. I want to ask you, because you've got a far more vast, extensive bank of films to draw from that you've seen, but I have trouble thinking about the rom-com side of it and other films in that genre that have done things this creative. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that comes to mind for you? Is my first reaction, honestly, the first movie that came to mind was 50 First Dates. But even that is not like sci-fi. It's just how they kind of get to where they're going there. And the big thing being, you know, her short-term memory loss and all that.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head. I mean, I do think of like more recently, it's kind of been more playful with the time loop and we're living the same day, but it's the horror genre, like the Happy Death Day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's things like that have been able to kind of play with it a bit.
Yeah.
And there's even one that comes out I think it may have already come out. That deals with the same day, but you pick up a different clue because there's different things trying to kill you.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a preview back when I saw Hard Eyes in February, but anyway, but I can't think of a rom-com that's quite like,
Which
I guess Groundhog Day, sort of.
yeah, but the larger point here,
but the
being
creative and style that they're doing it in is out. It's I can't think of one that goes along with the themes of it, but also the execution of it, and have that blend so stylishly and so effortlessly into what it's trying to say.
Yeah. So the larger point being here, like it feels pretty rare for a movie to come along that's like this creative and this like on the money. It's like it truly to me stands out as a film that just like you don't see these too often.
No.
And it kind of makes me go back to my point from the beginning of the show, like more people should have seen this movie.
And I think what really gets you is that it's so unexpected on what it actually achieves.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it is one of those where, I mean, you know, see who's in it, read about it, but it's don't judge a book by its cover kind of situation, because it really has these fantastic themes just about life, and it doesn't matter if you're, I mean, it's not, the rom-com sci-fi thing is something that you don't see a whole lot of, especially kind of done right, but I mean, how can you not resonate? Like, how can that not resonate with you in some form or fashion?
Yeah.
But the way that it does it, because it actually is funny.
Yeah.
There is real chemistry. You like those two people.
Yeah.
And that sometimes in movies like this, or just rom-coms in general, those are things that are not, that they don't come easy.
Yeah.
And they should.
So let's talk about some of the award success of this film. I mentioned that it won Best Comedy at Critics' Choice that year. Andy Samberg nominated for Best Performance in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. You know who else was nominated that year?
With him?
For
Golden Globe?
Andy Samberg for Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Dev Patel for The Personal History of David Copperfield.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton. James Corden for The Prom. I don't even remember that movie.
Is that when Disney did their thing? No,
let's
that
see.
can't be right.
The Prom is a 2020
No, that's a dumb musical.
American musical comedy film.
Yeah. It had like Nicole Kidman and a Meryl Streep. It had a bunch of people in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the Lin-Manuel Miranda was nominated for Hamilton?
Yeah. 2020 American biographical musical historical drama film consisting of a live stage recording of the Broadway musical.
Oh, okay. Boy,
Remember
we were
Disney
really
Plus? It was the COVID year, so they were like, let's just film Hamilton and put it up on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah. Okay. God,
And
that
then-
was in 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the winner of that field was none other than Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat subsequent movie film, which also won the Best Picture in the musical or comedy category. So along with Hamilton, music, The Prom, and Palm Springs were your nominees. So I asked, did the Golden Globes get it right? That's a tough one.
No,
That's a tough one. Yeah.
My thinking
in
is
each category, actor
Andy Samberg,
and Best Picture.
Andy Samberg was probably the next best thing. I'm not a fan of James Corden, so I don't.
Yeah, I'm
and
kinda
then
with you.
the Lin-Manuel Miranda's a bit tricky.
That doesn't
It's just
feel
a
like it should
bit-
count to me,
Yeah,
but
like you got Tony stuff, and that's really what is it? You know what? And I think in a normal year that probably wouldn't happen. In a normal year, there's no way James Corden would have been nominated for The Prom. The Prom is a dumb movie.
Yeah.
And then were they basically all the same movies for Best Comedy?
Best comedy was The Prom, Palm Springs, music. That was not.
Gosh, that was Sia's, and
Yeah.
critics hated
Mhm.
that one. I never
Hamilton
even watched it.
And Borat subsequent movie film won the category.
Well, wait a minute. I take that back. I think Sacha Baron Cohen, but you know what? I really enjoyed Dev Patel in the Copperfield movie.
I never saw that one. I never caught that one.
That was a good one. So I forgot that he was mentioned. So yeah, I would say Sacha Baron Cohen.
What about Best Picture in that category? Would you stick with Borat, the sequel?
It was
Borat subsequent movie film won it.
Yeah, and it was Against the Prom,
Palm Springs, Music, and Hamilton.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah?
Yeah. Again, Palm Springs, I would almost have Palm Springs win the movie one.
Yeah.
But Sacha Baron Cohen winning the acting
That's
one.
kind of where I was leaning.
That's probably what I would say, because I like Palm Springs overall better, and Borat has, what to expect. But it's still great. And it's during a time, of 2020 where, that came out at a very relevant time. It was done on purpose, but yeah. I think I would go with Palm Springs movie, but Sacha Baron Cohen winning I'm okay with.
So
I want to know why the Copperfield movie didn't get into Best Comedy, because that would have been.
Listen, take it up with the Golden Globes.
They've made a lot of shitty decisions in their
history.
history.
So let's talk about the Oscars, because I just want to ask if you think, Palm Springs gets no nominations for the Oscars.
Yeah.
They don't get the benefit of a musical or comedy category
Right.
at the Oscars, but I'm just curious your thoughts on if it belonged in that year's Best Picture conversation.
Oh, okay.
That's the year that Nomadland wins. Also nominated were The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Which I loved The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question to answer, because I think I liked Palm Springs more than some of the movies in that category.
Yes.
But I can also acknowledge, Nomadland is a pretty well-made movie.
Yeah.
I'll probably never watch it again. I'll watch Palm Springs every summer for the rest of my life, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I could make room for Palm Springs in this field, but where do you think it fits among those movies?
I think I could. But it would be for the same reasons you just stated. It's not the The Trial of Chicago 7 was good, but I'll never watch it again.
Yeah.
And I would switch out Palm Springs for that one, or Mank. Mank is a Fincher movie. Gary Oldman's great, but I didn't really like it to begin with. So for me, yeah, I could throw that in there with no problem.
What did you think of The Father?
The Father was good.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins was phenomenal, and I know people thought
that was
Boseman would win. But,
controversial, yeah.
But honestly, I think it's only because Boseman had passed. In
Yeah.
any other year, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, Anthony, but just because you've been around forever and you've won one doesn't mean that. If it's the best work, it's the best work. But he is phenomenal. That's what made The Son that much worse, because no one could deliver.
So this is going back to Palm Springs. It's such an interesting. It's so interesting that this movie was so good, because this was writer Andy Sierra. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. It is his first feature film script that he had written. He'd only written some short films and a TV series prior to that. To this day, this is the only feature film script that he's written.
Wow, okay.
Which is interesting to me. And then you look at the director, Max Barbaco, again, hoping I'm saying that correctly. He has directed a couple of short films, only 2 feature films. 2020's Palm Springs and 2024's Brothers. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, how you think, just looking at that, there's a lot of inexperience behind the camera, so to speak, the team making this film.
Oh, yeah.
That's a hell of a first effort.
Yeah.
And
really, in a lot of ways, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a gamble.
So I don't know. Do you find it funny that the guy that wrote this hasn't written another feature film? It's been 5 years at this point.
No, I am kind of surprised by that.
And the guy that's directed it has done one movie since, and it was not very well received.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I find the funniest is how someone can direct one of the best movies of 2020 and then make one of the worst movies of 2024.
Yeah.
And by the way, Peter Dinklage, Brendan Fraser, Josh Brolin.
That's a cast.
But oh my God, you want to talk about, it's the total opposite as far as clever, funny, thoughtful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't realize it. Everybody was kind of newbies, at least in the
it's just
feature.
Again,
field.
like these films, it feels like they come around infrequently enough as is, much less one that's made by a bunch of newbies, like you said.
But is it one of those where the writer's like, shit, this is as good as it gets?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'm never going to do it again.
Last question before we wrap up and get on out of here. Is Palm Springs Andy Samberg's best movie? I love Hot Rod.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's better than Palm Springs by any stretch of the imagination. He was in I Love You Man. I don't really remember that.
Well, he was the brother.
That's right. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's My Boy was not.
I hate that movie.
He's in Hotel Transylvania.
He's
Grown Ups
I don't
too.
think so.
He's in.
Yeah.
I don't remember him. Oh, he's got a cameo in Neighbors. I was about to say I don't remember him. There was the pop star Never Stop, Never Stopping.
I think a lot of people would probably put that ahead of Palm Springs, but I would not. I think Palm Springs is his best movie. Even if I didn't say best performance, I would say it's his best movie.
I didn't realize he was in Lee.
Yeah, he plays I think it's a photographer from the Times, New York Times, I think.
Okay. Well.
But yeah, no, Palm Springs, I think the pop star would be the only one that I think people would fight you over. But I think that Palm Springs just shows everything that I feel like is able to do. That he finally got a part that allowed him to do it. He could still be what I think would consider him to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But that there's more to it, and there's more to it to his performances. And I think honestly, I think a lot of that came from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was winning Golden Globe for it, and I think that kind of opened some things up because in Lee, it's a straight like dramatic and he's good. You can't look shit. Kate Winslet, you got to be halfway decent. She can make you look good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like Palm Springs was just such a perfect concoction for, clearly everyone involved, but especially for him and kind of the comedic talents and also the dramatic part that he probably, it just hasn't gotten to show that much.
Do you have a star rating for this film?
Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5.
I gave it a 4 out of 5 too, and I kind of feel like I'm having trouble thinking of reasons why it shouldn't be rated higher. Like I feel like I'm just doing that because of the genre. I'm like, well, it's a fantasy rom-com. I can't give it anything higher than a 4.
I'll be honest. To me, anytime I give something a 4 on up, it's just kind of like maybe just like my personal favorite. When I watch it again, I do think that, there is a stretch where we're kind of getting to where like, oh, we probably need to wrap this up, which we do.
That's
we
true.
do.
I just like, for me, I feel like I've seen it a few times, and I feel like this is one of the few movies that I feel like I like it more every time I watch it.
This is the first time I've watched it since 2020.
Yeah.
And now I realize why I probably wrote a review, because it was probably only one of the things coming out.
Like
but still, I'm glad
month.
I did. I'm glad I did because it was a good one. But I don't know. I don't think I would go any higher than that, but I would definitely say, like, after watching it again, it does. It is such. It's just such, I think, of a triumph on what it's trying to do, especially the gamble it's taking. I'm not even talking about first time right or anything. I'm just mean like, just the story itself is a rare. It's a rare thing.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people give it the 4 or 5, and and I'm guilty of it too. There's better made movies.
Yeah.
But I I mean, at the end of the day, you're rating on what you like and what your favorite is. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't watch Palm Springs that much. If someone asked me, like, hey, would you watch Palm Springs or You've Got Mail? I'd watch You've Got Mail. Doesn't mean it's better, but I would watch it.
I just, like, I feel like this is going to be one of those movies that I'm going to eventually give it the 5 out of 5.
It's got, I mean, earlier you're talking about the vibe and stuff. It's got it.
The more I watch it, I'm like, man, I'm literally just docking
a lot
points
of
for
people
being
have
that
really
genre.
loved it. And I get it. I get it. If someone said, hey man, what's the difference between a 4 and a 5? There ain't much.
Yeah.
I mean, there really isn't. There's not much.
Well, that's all the notes that I have on Palm Springs, Brandon. I think you summed it up pretty well there. Just for people listening that might want to know, you can find a Blu-ray copy of Palm Springs used on Amazon for $5.93. So I'm probably gonna purchase one of those.
And it's on Hulu.
Whenever I get off this show.
Yeah.
So.
It is a Hulu original, so you can always find it there for as long as they keep it, I guess. But yeah, well, it's nice they did a physical copy of that.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast. We will be back. Actually, no, we've got a bonus episode for June. So we'll be back later this month. And then we'll be on to July for, there's a few months that have 5 Mondays on the calendar. We want to have a podcast in your feed every Monday morning. So you get a bonus one this month. Subscribe to Nashville Movie Dispatch, nashvillemoviedispatch.substack.com. All of our work is up there, lists, podcasts, reviews, the whole 9 yards. Subscribe to the Nashville Movie Dispatch podcast feed wherever you take in your podcast, or even we're doing numbers on YouTube now, apparently. So that's great. You can watch the show there. For Brandon Vick, I'm Stoney Keeley, and until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.